Hi, everybody. Welcome to Parents Perspective with Mike and Amy. My name is Mike Thomas, and with me is Amy Bishop, our co-host. And this program is part of an education series through the St. Clair County Speak Youth Coalition and is funded in part by Region 10 in partnership with the St. Clair County Health Department and local organizations in the Blue Water area. Now, we were originally talking about having a slot coming up pretty quick for the focus on trauma, but we're going to actually table that. We actually have a guest speaker coming in. So what we wanted to do is switch gears a little bit and talk to you guys about healthy communication. And for a lot of folks, that means different things. And what does that have to do with substance use issues? Well, really, when we think about it, healthy communication really sets the tone for a lot of our children in the first place to make sure they feel comfortable and safe and know how to communicate, so that way they may not need to use some substances. And one famous author, Johann Hari, has actually said the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And what that means is when we feel loved and belonged to, we're more likely to feel engaged and less likely to use. And so we're going to talk a bit about one of my favorite subjects, love languages. So Amy, if you would, real quick, what are some of the languages for you and your family?
Well, that's interesting that you ask. I wasn't real familiar with the love languages, but when you brought it up, I did a little homework. So, I actually stumbled upon the fivelovelanguages.com, and then you can put in a forward slash and actually take a test. So I took the test for myself, and I found out that my main love language is through physical touch. And the runner up was spending quality time for myself. However, my son, who is 12, when he took the test, his biggest way of feeling loved was through words of affirmation, with a runner up as quality time. Now, why I this really made me stop and think is because I have a character flaw, and it is my tongue. Many times I focus on the negative and I get harpy, I get, Mom, you're always on me to do this, do this, do this. And so some of that comes through very negative, very overbearing. And so if my son's love language is words of affirmation, how hurtful is it for him not to hear more positive things from me? So I have set a new goal, and that is to mind my tongue even more and really focus on words of affirmation to him to build self-esteem and confidence.
Funny you mentioned those two because those are actually, Amy, for yours. Those are mine. I actually have number one was physical touch, and number two was quality time. And for my son, it's the same thing. It's words of affirmation. Now, my daughters are a little different. I actually have one daughter. She likes the quality time, and the other one really likes it with the physical touch as well, too. She'll sit right next to me, right on the couch, and likes just that connection as well. It's funny that we got those similarities. And if you guys are not familiar with what the love languages are, there's a book out called The Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman. But real quick, we'll go through them individually. So number one, physical touch is actually a language that basically means you feel loved when people are close to you physically. So that could be a hug, that could be a pat on the back, that could be arm around the shoulder. For some children, they love it when they wrestle with mom or dad, more so dad than mom, I'm sure. But being with somebody and connecting with them physically could be a big one. Another one is going to be when we're talking about quality time. Quality time is where people feel loved when we're doing stuff together as a group. So that could be going out on a family trip, like maybe taking a car ride, going on a trip. That could be doing a picnic together. That could be going to our favorite activity. Just sitting around playing a board game can be a lot of fun. But some people feel loved best when they are spending good time with their family and loved ones. And another one is going to be acts of service. Acts of service is where some people feel loved when you do special things for them. That could be like doing extra chores or helping them out with projects, doing something for them. They feel loved when you're helping them out. So, Amy, do you remember what the other two are?
So in addition to those, we have receiving gifts. I recall working with someone that was her main way to feel loved and important. And unfortunately, I found that a bit difficult because receiving gifts is bottom on my list. That was where we differed. That was least important to me. But after a few, bumps in the road, I discovered, stopping by and grabbing her an iced tea and giving that to her, that meant the world to her. So that's one of them, receiving gifts. And then the other one that you did not talk about is, let's see, words of affirmation we did, acts of service, quality time, receiving gifts. I think we covered them all. Did we not?
Yeah, with words of affirmation, just kind of going over it really quickly, detail wise. Some people feel loved when you talk, when you build them up and say nice things to them, and so that was really the fifth one on there. So anytime you can say, I love you, I appreciate you. One of the things I love about you most is when you, and then just fill in the blank, and those things mean a lot to somebody with that gift. So those five. The thing with them, and I like sharing this with a lot of folks, and Amy, want to know your thoughts as well too, is that many cases the languages that we have, you touched on this a bit, might not be the same as other people. So we sometimes want to show love the same way we receive love, and that might not be what they need. Like, for example, I need a hug where my son just needs to be talked up to, and kind of like what you were saying, where sometimes the words that we use can be an issue. I find that because I don't need the words, that it's hard for me sometimes to love showing that way because I'm not used to that. I get mine through hugs and quality time. And so if my son needs the words and I'm just like, whatever, talk is cheap, it almost in a way shuts him down and makes him feel unloved. So have you experienced that too, Amy?
I have. In fact, I actually realized, I haven't had my husband take this test yet, but I know him pretty well after all this time. And I realized that my husband also is words of affirmation, and I call those lots of attaboys, where I don't need that motivation. I just up and do it. I don't need compliments. I don't need, oh, wow, thank you so much for doing this. But my husband really does. So, yeah, I have experienced that because that's not my love language doesn't mean I don't need to acknowledge that someone else's love language is very different from mine and come out of my comfort zone in needing a hug and using my words to compliment, praise, encourage, motivate, and build up in my boys at home.
Great point, Amy. And so, with that, a couple other things we want to mention. First off, when it comes to trying to figure out what your child's language is, first they can take the quiz. I know Amy and I both took the quiz. We found out we have a lot in common, but other ways that you can do that too are simply just by talking with them and listening to what they have to say. If your child is saying, you know what, mom, it'd be really nice if when you go to the grocery store, you get me a candy bar. Maybe their gift is, or their love language is receiving gifts. Or at the same time, it'd be really nice, Dad, if you could hang out with me when you get home from work. Maybe what they're saying there is that quality time is their thing. So really try to listen in on to what it is they're saying. And what we call as gripes or complaints could be just them trying to express how they feel loved.
I love it. I love it. Big key to communicating is listening. And Mike, you said that. It's so important that we listen to our kids. When they're babies, we drop everything when they say their first word. And we stop what we're doing and we look them in the eye and we go, oh, what did you say? But when they get older, we seem to get away from that. We really need to stop and look them in the eye and remove distractions, especially with quality time too. Quality time cannot be, where your attention is diverted to your cell phone or your work or making dinner, but to truly have a one-on-one, eye-to-eye kind of conversation and really listen to our kids.
And along with listening, making sure that we don't use the opposite for what their love language is. I know sometimes some people feel corporal punishment's the way to do things. And regardless of what your thought is on that, if your child is a physical touch child, one of the worst things you can do is spank them, because in many cases, what that's going to do is make them feel unloved. Same thing if it's words of affirmation. If you talk down to them, or with receiving gifts, forget their birthday, quality time, don't hang out with them, especially if any of you guys are parents out there that travel and maybe like truck drivers, long hauls, and you're out there driving and want to just sometimes unwind when you get back home. If they haven't seen you in days or even weeks, sometimes if you've been traveling a lot, that could be a lot if you don't take that extra special time. So make sure that we're not using their language against them in what you do. And so, Amy, any other thoughts on that?
No, totally agree. We just want to be really careful what we do and what we say. And I think the first and foremost is knowing what other people's love language is, because I think that makes us more aware and we're careful not to do things that could be harmful or more detrimental to the relationship or make if you attack the do the opposite of what that love language is, it could be longer and longer before that person forgives you and trusts you again or feels loved.
Excellent point, Amy. And so we want to thank you for tuning in. When we talk next week, we're going to be looking at another topic, how to handle disagreements using fair fighting rules. So with that said, Amy and I want to thank you for coming in. And if you get a chance, continue to comment. We're hoping to get some more questions from folks, things that we can answer for you. Also, this is featured on Facebook. You can also check out our Instagram feeds as well too for some other activities for adults and for children. And we just thank you for watching and have a great night.